Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all okay today. Just to make you aware, we will be recording this webinar.
Are we ready to start? Do we need a few minutes for more people to join?
No, so guys, what we're going to do, we're just going to start the presentation now.
Okay, so good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning on this webinar being presented to you by the Chamber Customs team at the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. And that's myself and my colleague, Sophie Trevelyan. Before we start, I'd just like to test the knowledge base. Just want to make people aware there might be some people on the call that are not too familiar. Most of you should know, but we're just trying to gauge. Does anybody know what CDS is? So just for the purpose of everybody, just to make you aware, CDS is the new system that will be replacing the current system, Chief. And we'll be getting into this in a little bit more detail shortly. And the other thing we wanted to ask was, does anybody know the deadline for registering for CDS for imports? And just to make you aware, the deadline will be the 30th of September this year. This webinar will last for around 20 minutes, and we will have a Q&A after the presentation where we will have Graham Card, our international trade advisor, with us just to help out with any questions. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to add your questions into the chat, and we will answer them later on in the Q&A section. So, the Customs Declaration Service. This is the new service that will replace Chief with less than 3 months to move across to CDS, the new service. The government announced their intention to introduce CDS as a replacement for Chief, allowing a smoother, more streamlined experience for users with less paperwork and form filling. As I mentioned, the last day you'll be able to make an import declaration on the Chief system is the 30th of September 2022. To continue trading from the 1st of October 2022, you'll need to make your import declarations on the new CDS system. The last day for making an export declaration on Chief will be the 31st of March 2023, which is when Chief will close. We advise you to be making contact now with your customs agents. You should not underestimate the time it may take to move across to CDS. So if you haven't already, please take action today.
The current flexible accounting system, currently known as FAS, will be replaced with the new cash account. Importers who currently do not have a deferment account will use the CDS cash account online to make payments, and this will save any delays with your shipments. As you can see from the slide, there are many benefits of having a cash account if you do not have a deferment account.
To register to use CDS, you will have to log into your government gateway account. As you can see from what's on the screen, that's probably a familiar screen for most of you. If you do not have a government gateway account, you can register on the government gateway website. We will be sending out a small checklist for this process to everybody in the webinar, so you'll have all of these screenshots and the links that you will see in some of the up and coming slides.
The next step for this process would be you accessing your CDS account online and then set up a direct debit arrangement with your bank. If you are using both Chief and CDS, you will need to set up 2 direct debits. Many agents will not move over to CDS until the 1st of October. So we would suggest that you set up 2 direct debits, one for Chief and one for CDS, to save any delays with your shipments coming in. As you can see on the screen here, this is a guide that we will be going through today, and it will show you how to authorize your agent to use your CDS cash account and deferment account, how to top up your CDS cash account, and how to check previous transactions.
This is where you will add your authority and register your EORI. When you do register your EORI, you will automatically receive a cash account. As you can see, there's links on these slides here, and these will be part of the slides that will be distributed after this webinar.
As you can see on the screen now, which I'm sure you are all aware of and familiar with, this is the Government Gateway website, and this is where you will be adding authority for your customs agent.
This screen here again is your Government Gateway, and this is where you will add the authority and provide your agent's EORI number. But please be aware, you are allowed to add authority for multiple customs agents.
Okay, so as you can see on the screen here, you will just be double checking that the details that you're putting in are correct. So as you can see, there's an EORI number. This will be your customs agent's EORI number, and you would then put the company name. Once you double check that, you then on the left-hand side, you will just select continue. As you can see on the right-hand side, you will be selecting a date, whether today or a date for the authority to start. We would highly recommend that you start it today to save any delays with HMRC, as sometimes the process can take up to 2 hours or up to 5 days. So we would recommend for that process to be done immediately.
This screen here is where you allow your agent to access your deferment account. We would recommend you allow your agent to have access to your deferment account so they can keep an eye on your balance, let you know if it's low when you have particular shipments with payments due.
As you can see here on the slide, you are just double checking the answers that you've put in. And then once you've confirmed that everything is correct, as you can see here, select confirm this authorization and submit. And as you can see on the screen here, the adding authority has been completed.
This is the screen for topping up your cash account. And as you can see on the left-hand side, it shows your cash account number and the amount of funds you have available. On the right-hand side, you have links to log in and select to top up.
Okay, so guys, this is just a quick slide about who we are and what we do. So we are Chamber Customs. We are based at the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce, and we are here to help you with all of your customs requirements. So if anyone on the call today are currently struggling with the transition to CDS, then we are more than happy to advise and help you with that process.
So a little bit more about us. So we are the only customs agents in the UK with all connections to all land, air, sea clearance ports within the UK. And unlike some other customs agents, we don't subcontract your declarations to offshore processors. We employ everybody in the UK, and we do not outsource any of the work. In other words, we do it correctly. We have a great working relationship with HMRC to make sure all declarations are compliant, as not everybody is aware that a customs declaration is a tax return, one you make on every consignment, and Chamber Customs, we are specialists in this field. So thank you for watching, everybody. That's pretty much the process of registering for CDS. And we would now like to, well, before actually, yeah, are there any questions in the chat? Do we have any questions in the chat at all? We'd now like to open the floor for Q&A.
So no one has any questions today. We did have one question come in via email, didn't we, Ben? And it's one question that we did receive is, what does registering for CDS give me access to? So registration to CDS provides access to the customs financial accounts, which allows you to view your individual financial accounting information and set up a new direct debit or standing authority. Another question that we received is, where do I register to CDS and how long do I have to wait to get access? So what we can do is I will share the link in the chat so then everyone can have a look. And then once registration is complete, you should be able to access CDS within 2 hours. However, it is advised that you wait for the email confirmation before accessing the service for the first time, as it can take up to 5 days if HMRC need to make more checks. At this point, you will be able to access your customs financial accounts, which will provide you with all the information related to the financial aspect of imports.
We have a few questions coming in now as well, Sophie.
Okay. And
just to make everybody aware, obviously on the screen are our contact details there. So if you think of any questions a little later, by all means, grab our contact details now. And if you think of something, you know, in a few days' time, reach out to us. We're more than happy to help anybody who needs, you know, any assistance with this. So I can see in the chat a few questions we have come in. We've got one from Louise. Hi, Louise. She's asked, is the cash account like a prepaid account? I would have to top up funds before the freighter can complete the customs entry. It is a top up account, but you don't have to do it before they complete the entry. It would obviously be a good idea to make sure the funds are there once you know the goods are moving, but it's not something that has to be done before. It would just mean if you hadn't done it and your goods hit the port, then your freight guys would be calling you and saying there's not enough balance. So as we mentioned earlier in the call, it's a great idea to allow your agents to have access to view your cash account and be able to see your funds. Then they can, you know, give you a heads up. We have a question from Lisa, and she's asked, we don't have a deferment account. Do I need to open one in addition to the CDS account? So if Sophia, she's going to speak there.
No, you do not have to. I think the great thing that HMRC have brought out is the cash account. So it's a lot quicker. So if you do not want to have a deferment account, then you can just use the cash account. But it is obviously a prepaid sort of top-up service. So I always recommend for importers who we do work for to have a deferment account, as it just saves any issues with your shipments. Because if on a Friday you've got a shipment coming in on the Saturday and you've already left and you haven't topped up your account, then you will have issues with your shipment. But no, you can use the cash account. That's fine.
Okay, another question from Rose. We don't have a deferment account. I know this is an import presentation. We use DHL for exports. Do we need to register their details? Absolutely. If they're your agent, you will need to register their EORE when you set up your CDS account. As I mentioned, exports, the deadline for exports is the 31st of March next year. But I would start talking to them about it now. You know, just tell them I've been on a webinar. I understand I need to register for CDS. get their EORI and their information, and I would say get the ball rolling, you know, as soon as possible. Question from Barbara: what extra information do we need to provide on our clearance instructions for CDS?
I think the only new thing that has actually been added to CDS is actually just the gross weight. Everything else is the same. So I would just recommend adding the gross weight onto your invoice.
Okay, one from Adrian: are you able to give an overview of the process for temporary imports of construction, plant and equipment? Is this something you can give specific advice on? Adrian, I think we're going to have a conversation with you after the webinar at some point. So I do recognise your name actually, Adrian. I will grab your details and we'll contact you and go through that with you. All right. Stephen, a question from Stephen: how do temporary imports work? For example, for exhibitions where the goods are eventually sent back to the overseas owners. Again, Stephen, I think we're going to have a conversation with you outside of the webinar, but that's not a problem. We can give you all the options there. There are a few different options, such as carnets and bits and pieces, but we will we'll get in touch with you and go through that with you. Just making sure there's nothing I've missed here. I think that's all the questions from the chat have been addressed.
Could I add something in, Ben?
Absolutely, go for it, Graham.
It's interesting. I was with a company yesterday afternoon, and we talked through the four main customs procedures. One of them being carnets for temporary situations, such as the exhibition question just there. I think what was interesting that came out of the conversation, I mean, this was one, not just one company, it was a very nice company, and they made me a really nice toasted cheese sandwich for my lunch. So sometimes there's a benefit in being a trade advisor. Thank you for that, Sharon, if you're on the call. And the point I would make is that actually there were so many different things that company were doing in terms of their movements into the UK and also out of the UK, that you sometimes just need to look at each case on its merits. So it may be that the carnet system seems like the obvious one. It may be one of the import or outward processing situations that needs to be looked at. There are customs procedures to go through. And as I say, there are four main ones. The one I haven't just mentioned in this conversation is returned goods procedure. So there is a very, I won't say very good because I'm talking about myself here, but there is a fairly strong support network within the chamber, so that the chamber look to give advice and help when they can. If they don't know the answer, they usually then go out to find the answer through their various advisors. I happen to be one of those. And then if I need further help, I've got the whole chamber network that I can call on, the International Chamber of Commerce right at the top of the tree, and various other institutes. So one way or the other, we will usually come up with the answer that you need in a situation.
Thanks, Ben. I think another question. Stefania. We never had to import from EU, but we will have probably to start now. Can I contact your offices to have further information about the service you can offer? Can you help us with? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We can help you with that. You have our contact details, so as a matter of fact, as soon as the webinar's finished, you give us a call straight away if you wish, Stefania, or in your own time. But yeah, we'll be more than happy to kind of talk you through. No problem. She just said thanks a lot. No worries. Any other questions from anybody at all? And as I did say, our contact details are up, and we're happy to put them in the chat if there's things you think of down the line. We're happy to help anybody at any time. That's what we're here for. Okay.
Got another one just come in, Ben.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's from Stephen again, who previously asked about temporary imports. I worked in exhibitions many years ago, pre-single market, and we used bonds and guarantees so that the taxes and duties didn't have to be paid out. Of course, many years ago in different times. Yes, indeed. Graham, you were obviously active in those times. Yeah, you obviously remember.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what's happened, Ben, is that we've kind of gone back to where we were before. And I don't mean back to before we joined the European community, as it was called back in those days, but when the 1992 change, when basically the borders came down and it all became one open customs union. So that was, if you like, a further development of having joined the European Union. And so, yeah, one of the dividends, I'm trying to think of an appropriate word, one of the dividends of Brexit is that we do now need to do things like show our passport every time we cross a border, and goods are subject to checking every time we cross a border. But essentially, this refers back really from a chamber perspective to the best system being the carnet system. If you have got goods that are moving country to country with exhibitions or some sort of event in mind, you are actually, when you complete or when you have a carnet issued by a chamber, you are actually also given a guarantee of the likely amount of duty and or VAT that's going to be made in each one of those situations. And you also need to keep copious, accurate records, so that if one of the items that you're moving around the world, I don't know, falls off of the stage where you're presenting and gets broken or something and needs to be disposed of, you can't just stick it in the bin and say, well, we've broken it and it's disposed of. You've got to have a record to show that it was disposed of, because otherwise there's going to be a bill for duty or VAT at the end of it. So basically, it is back to a system where you need to have some sort of guarantee when you're moving things around. And the example I like to use is the Formula One situation. Every 2 weeks, the racing cars turn up in another country around the world, and there's a carnet situation going with each one of those sets of vehicles and all the bits and pieces that go with it. Or perhaps more particularly, if you've got an engineer going abroad to do a job, and then coming back again in a few weeks' time, is just taking some tools or something like that. Those tools need to have a way of getting in without customs looking at them and thinking there's a duty or a VAT situation here. We could talk more about it. We don't need to, I think, on this call, but there is the expertise within Chamber Customs and within the Chamber movement generally to help you with those sort of situations.
Yeah, I think that appears to be it. Yeah, it doesn't appear to be any more questions.
I'm going to just pop my mobile number in the chat.
Sophie has put my email and our office line in the chat as well, if anybody needs those details.
Okay, everyone. Well, we would just like to thank you all for joining the webinar today. As Ben's already stated, that if you do need any support, you've got our contact details and emails. So please feel free to send us an email or just give us a call. So thank you, everyone, for joining today.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you all have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you too.
See you later.
All the best.
How was it, guys? Oh.
Started off a bit scary.